She walked into that restaurant like she didn't belong there, not because she did anything wrong, but because everyone else decided she didn't fit their world. Her clothes were simple, her shoes were old, her posture was calm, almost shy, and in less than 30 seconds she was already being treated like trash. What no one in that room knew was that her father owned everything they were standing on. Her name was Emily. She had just turned 18 a few days earlier. No party, no fancy gifts, no big celebration. She grew up with money, yes, but not with privilege. Her father raised her differently. He believed that character mattered more than status, that respect should never depend on how someone looks, that power meant nothing if you forgot how to be human. That night, Emily wanted to test something. Not the restaurant, not the staff, but the world. She chose one of the most expensive restaurants in the city, a place where reservations were booked weeks in advance, where luxury cars filled the parking lot, where people dressed to impress and judge. Emily walked in alone. The hostess looked at her from head to toe, not quickly, not casually, slowly. Her eyes stopped at Emily's shoes, then her jacket, then her face. There was no smile, no greeting, just silence. Emily stood there for a moment, waiting. People behind her started to sigh. One man cleared his throat loudly. Another woman whispered something and laughed. Finally, Emily spoke. She asked politely if there was a table available. The hostess didn't even check the system. She said they were fully booked, reservations only. Her tone wasn't rude. It was worse, dismissive, being made invisible. Emily stepped aside. She waited. 5 minutes passed, then 10. During that time, 3 other people walked in. All of them were welcomed. All of them were guided to tables. One couple didn't even have a reservation, but they were well-dressed, confident, loud. Emily watched quietly. She didn't complain. She didn't argue. She simply observed. When she tried again, the hostess avoided eye contact. A waiter walked past her twice without acknowledging her. It was as if she didn't exist. Public disrespect. Eventually, Emily approached the desk one more time. She asked calmly if she could at least sit at the bar. The hostess sighed, loudly. She said the bar was for paying customers only. The words hit harder than they should have. Paying customers. People nearby heard it. A man smirked. A woman shook her head. Someone whispered, "Why does she even come here?" Emily felt her face heat up. Not from anger, from embarrassment. That is, Emily stepped back. She took out her phone. Not to complain, not to film. She made a call. Her voice was calm. She said only one sentence. "I'm here." Then she hung up. She didn't move. She didn't sit. She stood right there, waiting. The arrival. 5 minutes later, everything changed. A black luxury car stopped in front of the restaurant. The engine was quiet. The doors opened slowly. A man stepped out. Tall, well-dressed, calm. He didn't rush. He didn't look around. He walked in with confidence, the kind that doesn't need attention. The room felt different the moment he entered. People noticed. They always do. Block 8. Shift in energy. The hostess straightened her posture. Her smile appeared instantly. She welcomed him warmly, asked if he had a reservation. The man looked past her, straight at Emily. Their eyes met. He smiled, not loudly, not dramatically, just enough. The reveal begins. He walked toward her. The room went quiet. People watched, some confused, some curious. He placed his hand gently on Emily's shoulder, and then he spoke. He said he was here for dinner, with his daughter. Shock and denial. The hostess froze. Her smile disappeared. She tried to recover. She laughed nervously. She said there must be a misunderstanding. The man turned to her. His voice was calm, controlled. He said there was no misunderstanding. He asked for the manager. Immediately. The manager arrives. The manager rushed out, apologizing before even knowing why. The man didn't raise his voice. He didn't insult anyone. He simply introduced himself. He said his name, and then he said one sentence that changed everything. He said he owned the restaurant. Not part of it, all of it. Silence. No one spoke. The manager's face went pale. The hostess couldn't breathe. People at nearby tables stopped eating, stopped talking, stopped moving. Emily stood quietly, watching the confrontation. The man asked a simple question. He asked how his daughter had been treated since she arrived. The hostess tried to explain. She said she thought Emily wasn't a customer. She said the restaurant had standards. She said she was just doing her job. The man listened. Then he nodded. The lesson, the humiliation. Emily walked into the restaurant feeling excited but nervous. It was her 18th birthday, and she had promised herself she would celebrate it in a special way. No friends, no loud parties, just a quiet dinner at the most prestigious restaurant in the city. A gift to herself. She dressed modestly, with a clean but simple outfit. Nothing fancy. Her sneakers were slightly worn, her jacket a bit oversized. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She just wanted to enjoy a meal and reflect on her life so far. But from the moment she stepped through the door, she felt it. The looks, the judgment, the unspoken assumption. She didn't belong here. The hostess glanced up from her podium and scanned Emily head to toe. Her smile faded before it even formed. Without greeting, she asked coldly, "Do you have a reservation?" "Yes," Emily replied, trying to sound confident. "It's under Emily Carter." The hostess tapped her screen for a few seconds, then frowned. "I don't see anything under that name. Are you sure you reserved for tonight?" "Yes," Emily said again, pulling out her phone to show the confirmation email. Before she could unlock her screen, the hostess interrupted. "We're fully booked. I'm afraid you'll have to leave." Emily blinked, caught off guard. "But I have the confirmation right here." "We don't have time for this," the hostess snapped, turning to greet another guest who had just arrived. He wore a designer suit. She welcomed him with a wide smile, asked for his name, and led him to a table without checking the system. Emily stood there for a moment, unsure of what to do. She had been dismissed like a problem, like an inconvenience. The people in line behind her began to whisper. A couple smirked. One woman rolled her eyes. Embarrassed, Emily stepped aside and walked toward the waiting area, where she sat silently. No one came to check on her. No one offered water. Servers passed by as if she were invisible. 10 minutes passed, then 20. She watched as others, well-dressed, confident, clearly wealthy, were seated immediately. The hostess laughed with them, made eye contact, offered compliments, but not once did she glance in Emily's direction. Emily's stomach twisted. This wasn't how she imagined her birthday would go. Not here, not like this. But she refused to leave. Not yet. The reveal. After half an hour of being ignored, Emily stood up. She walked calmly outside and made a phone call. "Dad," she said softly, "can you come now?" 15 minutes later, a black luxury car pulled up to the entrance. The driver got out first, then opened the back door. A tall man in a tailored suit stepped out. His presence was commanding but calm. He didn't wear his power loudly, but anyone who looked at him knew he was someone important. He entered the restaurant, eyes scanning the room. The hostess's expression changed the moment she saw him. She straightened her back, smiled brightly, and greeted him with enthusiasm. "Good evening, sir. Do you have a reservation?" The man didn't respond. He simply looked past her, toward the waiting area, toward Emily. Her eyes lit up when she saw him. She stood up and he walked over to her with a warm, protective smile. "There you are," he said gently. "Ready to eat?" The room fell silent. Guests stared. Staff froze. The man turned to the hostess. "I believe my daughter was told she couldn't be seated." The hostess's face drained of color. I didn't know she was your daughter, sir. I'm so sorry. There must have been some mistake." "There was no mistake," he replied. "She had a reservation. You chose to ignore it. You chose to ignore her." He paused. "That's not how we treat people, not in my restaurant." A ripple of gasps spread through the room. The hostess stammered. "Wait, your restaurant?" "Yes," he said simply. "I own this place." The lesson. What followed was swift. The manager was called. Apologies were made. The hostess tried to explain, to justify her behavior. She blamed stress, the busy night, a system error. But it didn't matter. The owner looked around the restaurant. Then he looked at Emily. "Would you still like to eat here?" he asked. Emily shook her head. "No, Dad, not tonight." They turned to leave. On their way out, Emily reached into her bag and pulled out a white envelope. She handed it to the hostess without a word. Inside was a handwritten note. "Be kind to everyone. You never know who they are, or who they're becoming." And a $1,000 tip. The restaurant remained silent long after they left. Not because of who he was, but because of who she was. and how she chose to act even after being treated like trash.